Hello there, everyone. Welcome to GamePoints episode 275. I'm, as always, your host, David Brown, and joining me today is...
I'm David.
Tonight, David. Blue Box disappoints. Activision disappoints. Cyberpunk disappoints. Everything disappoints this week, except...
Amplitude.
a whole bunch of other stuff, actually. It turns out we actually have some good news. All the big shit is horrible. Well, mediocre at best. All the small stuff we're talking about, amazing. But before we get into any of that stuff, I do want everyone here to know that this is an audience interactive podcast about gaming news. So if you want to participate, feel free to comment, chat, whatever you want to do down in the box there. I have completely forgotten how to do the opening.
Join the conversation.
Join the conversations to tag. Like, holy hell, David.
Yeah.
Holy hell. This is going. I'm
already
already
a live show.
Yeah,
You can talk to us. You can also leave us a comment on the YouTube video
Comments,
after,
questions,
or you can join our
concerns.
Discord.
That's the phrase I was looking for. What started happening, David, is at the last second I realized my notes weren't open. So I had to throw them up in the corner. So I was doing that thing while I was talking and reading and moving stuff around at the same time, and that is just never good.
You can tell that we are a professionally run show.
That
how
is
smooth the intros remain.
the burden of doing it live, as Bill O'Reilly would say. David, what have you been up to this past week before we get into the news?
I don't remember what I was doing for the rest of the week because all day today I've just been playing a new video game that I'm going to talk about later at the end of the show for new releases.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if you tried that yet. I finished up Axiom Verge 2, which we'll get into later on as well. And goddamn, the spoilers, that game is amazing. We'll get into it more.
That's such a weird spoiler. Spoiler alert, this game does not suck.
Spoilers for the show. Because we'll get into more of that later as well. But man, that was... You can check the old VODs of it if you want to look at the Twitch channel over at twitch.tv/GamePoints for gameplay of it. I did play the entire thing. It's good. It's real good. But maybe not as good as it could be. David?
Yes.
Speaking of things that were not as good as it could be, let's move right into the first story of the week. And that is Blue Box giving us all blue balls. Now,
I mean, maybe the rest of you, but not me.
Yeah, I know that you are so... Like, if anything, I feel like this is being dragged out just specifically to fuck with you.
Dude, it's funny because I expected nothing better, and so for me, you know, I'm right where I assumed I was going to be.
So, this has been a topic we've been discussing on the show for... it feels like a month and a half at this point now, almost weekly. And that is with Blue Box Studios, Abandoned, what the hell they're working on, etc., etc. Well, last week, on the day the show went live, we should have had access to the Abandoned real-time experience app, which should have solved so many questions for us, should have answered so many things we were wondering about. And it should have gone live just enough time for us to take a look at it, then come on the show and talk about it. But true to form, at the last second, it was delayed with an unknown time and would it be going live. Well, that off-delayed app finally launched last Friday. The internet was like, holy shit, it's here. Let's take a look at it. Everyone downloaded it. They started it up. And they were met with a menu system that had like trailers, gameplay walkthrough, developer commentary, all of which are blacked out except one clip. And when you played that clip, it was roughly a 20-second video they fucking tweeted out already that Tuesday.
Yeah, the tweet that we had the video for before our show on Tuesday is the only thing that was included in the app that you had to download from your PlayStation that was like 5 gigs or something. Okay, cool. I'm glad that solved that. We know what that game is now.
People were pissed, to say the least.
Of course.
This is one of those things where it's even if it is given the interview that we're going to talk about later, I don't think this is actually a cute little like hidden. There's something else here. I think this is just a studio that fucked up bad, and they keep fucking up. And the internet keeps thinking there's something to the madness, but there is nothing to the madness. This is just
there's
insanity.
Just a small team that can't handle the pressure, and they're trying to make a video game, and it's not going well.
After what happened on Friday, and then what was in this upcoming interview we're going to talk about, that is now firmly the camp that I'm in. And I don't even feel bad for him.
Welcome to
at this
me a
point.
month and a half ago, Steven. I'm so proud that you finally joined me.
Just to add a little bit of fuckery to this, however, they wisely did not choose to launch the app on Thursday, because Thursday would have been like the anniversary of PT. Instead, they chose to release it the day after. I don't know if that was a conscious decision or not, given other things. But one thing this trailer, this 20-second fucking trailer that they already tweeted out on Tuesday had was a song playing in the background. Now, people were listening to this song and they're like, that sounds kind of Silent Hill-y. And it does. It's kind of ambient. It has those overtones of Silent Hill. If you know the Silent Hill soundtrack,
vaguely spooky ambient music.
you'll know
Obviously,
what
Silent Hill.
No. This is a little bit more specific than just vaguely ambient. Like
I gotcha.
Silent Hill has, if you're not familiar with the Silent Hill soundtracks, they have like a distinct tenor to them, and this kind of had that. And I was like, okay, there they go again, fucking circle jerking it one more time just to get the crowd racked up, until someone tracked down that this song was just a random audio. It was a random song that was produced from an album back in 2007 no one's even heard of. They just took out the lyrics to it. So that is yet another fucking asset flip, essentially, right? It might not be an official asset flip from like the Unity store, but it is something that they did not make. This entire project so far has been nothing but video clips, images, and music they have lifted from other people and put into this, saying, here's our game.
Yeah.
Now, I get why some people would look at that and go, there is no way Sony would allow that to happen with how involved Sony seems to be in this and all the weird special things that Blue Box Studios is doing. But as I finally sat down and had my catharsis over specifically this game over the weekend, I sat back with a nice whiskey and a cigar and pondered the meaning behind Abandoned. I'm suddenly reminded of shit like No Man's Sky, where Sony marketing was just openly lying about what the game was. This is a company that puts out things like Life of Black Tiger. This is a company that if you go browsing their PlayStation store at any given time, 80% of it is nothing but shitty mobile ports and other asset flips.
To be fair, that's all video game marketplaces at this point.
Fair enough. So the idea that Sony... I suddenly realized that my idea that Sony would not allow this to happen unchecked dropped. Because
Sony doesn't give a shit.
They've absolutely let shit like this run unchecked. And once that dropped,
you made the realization that Sony's not quite as smooth and shiny as you thought they were?
Everyone is giving Blue Box and Sony way more credit than they actually deserve. And I get it, because no one would think incompetence would run this high.
Even though Blue Box has had multiple other projects that all failed to deliver?
Yeah.
Anything successful or in any metric.
And what really kind of sealed the deal for me was this interview that the elusive Hassan Karaman gave for NME, a site that I have never heard of, to be fair. I've never heard of this place, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're not like a legitimate studio or anything like that. It's just weird that they could get the interview, but no one, like, you didn't get like an IGN or a GameStop or a Polygon to get it. But here we go.
Maybe they're local.
They could have been local to where he was at. I don't know. Here is bits from that interview. Link will be provided down below. This is a quote from Hassan Karaman. Abandoned is a shooter survival game. It has some horror elements in it, but it's not really a horror game. It's not what people think, that it's Silent Hill, end quote. This is... Yes, they tweeted out, like, we have no relation to this, we have no relation to this, we have no relation to this. But this is the words coming from the man's mouth himself, which does have a little bit of a different weight on it.
It's also exactly what he said last time.
Yes, but also what really drives us home is that the people from NME actually got to play it. Or not play it, but Hassan gave them a rundown under the promise of you can't share anyone with this. But what NME has shared is the following. In fact, we know exactly what it is. Hassan gave us an exclusive rundown of Abandon, including plot details, how it plays, just about everything we could ever know. We can finally debunk these rumors. It is not a Silent Hill game. It is not Metal Gear. After giving us a lengthy breakdown of the game's plot, Hassan had asked us to keep it to ourselves. But one thing we can say is that Abandon is absolutely not what you think it is, not even close. Now, David, this is the first time that an outside party, the first time that I can think of, that an outside party who isn't Caraman or Sony is now openly saying, we have seen it. It is absolutely not this.
Correct. Yes. This should hopefully finally put a nail in all those rumors. That
It's not going to.
Secretly Kojima or something.
It's not going to, which is why I brought up the fact that it was weird that this was from NME and not a major place like IGN, Polygon, GameStop, Game Informer, VG. This could be a huge magazine, maybe, and I've just never heard of these people, so it's weird.
Or it could be something small enough that they actually stick to their word when he says, don't tell anybody the plot. Because there's a very real chance that some of the bigger publications won't give a shit and will just post the whole fucking thing on the internet.
Embargo breaking on bigger sites does not actually happen that often because they do know better. It's not worth burning bridges. What you'll see embargo breaks typically on are mid-level YouTubers or mid-level sites that don't care if they ruin the relationship they have. Usually doesn't come from like your IGNs or GameStops, etc.
That's fair.
But this is, as far as I can tell, the first time someone has gone on record saying, yes, we know what Abandon is about, and it is not Silent Hill Kojima. That is not actually involved directly with either the making of the game or Sony PR itself.
Mm-hmm.
That I can think of. I could be wrong. Please let me know if someone else has like information on this elsewhere.
You got nothing? You're finally where I am? You're just sick and tired of it. You've got nothing else to talk about because this is not and has never actually been news.
So here's my stance on that. I was never fully on 100% yes, this has to be Silent Hill's train. I thought there was something here though. I just didn't know what it was. Because I was looking at all of this going, there is no way this series of events can be 100% coincidental, nor would Sony allow such a train wreck to unfold unless there was some payoff here.
Sony's not even paying attention to it.
And then this weekend is when I actually sat down and started to think real hard about like the history of Sony. And I realized I don't think they even know what's going on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're just not paying attention because it's a small game from an indie studio that, yes, they gave them this app, probably because they asked for it. And, maybe they're sponsored or partnered or something.
This is where I get, because I know people who've developed smaller games for the place. I actively speak with them. I'm friendly with a few of them. None of them were ever allowed this kind of latitude. Ever. And they're bigger names than Blue Box Studios is. So this is where shit wasn't like lining up in my head. That's why I kept going, this has to be something. This has to be something. It doesn't have to be Silent Hill, but it has to be something that we're not seeing. And now I'm fully in the camp of, I think this is just what happens when incompetence meets the belief that they are actually more than they are.
Or
and
just
by more than they
PR
are.
management.
It's more. It goes beyond poor PR. If this is absolutely nothing, it goes way beyond poor PR management. Way beyond poor PR management. Like I said, if this is truly absolutely nothing, Sony themselves should have stepped in a month ago, if not.
Why?
Why? Because of the... Okay, so I know what you're going to say, because it's just constantly building up hype and everything like that, but this is going to bite them in the ass so hard, because I know there's this weird belief that there is no such thing as bad PR, but that is absolutely not true. This is one of those things where you get like a short-term gain for something, while ruining your reputation. The reputation can stay ruined forever.
Whose reputation is going to be ruined?
Sony's and blue boxes if shit goes wrong. Sony still eats shit over their PlayStation hack from a long time ago, and that does damage things, especially on the business side. When it comes to like
Sony, the guys with the console that's actively outselling everything that's ever sold in the history of consoles.
It hasn't actively outsold everything in the history of consoles.
As far as
I know it sold well, but if you're going to start bringing the hard numbers at me, then I'm going to have to back off.
The time to sales for this console rivals some of the greats.
You can only get away with that so many times, and it does start having a tangible effect.
Getting away with it. And the average person that's going out to buy a PS5 gives zero shits about this entire story and has never even heard of the game Abandoned.
How many grains of sand make a heap? And the thing that I love to point to when this conversation comes up at this point is World of Warcraft, a game that has been hemorrhaging players over the past few years because Activision Blizzard can't get its shit together anymore. It is hurting them. I think
their situation is a lot different than Sony's.
Because you have the color of the harassment claims going on in the background and the Blitzchung thing. But this has all been problems that have been stemming for years there. This isn't something that one mistake isn't going to make them a pariah overnight. That doesn't happen. What does make them a pariah is a continued non-stop hammering over and over and over again. And it starts tarnishing it more and more and more. And this is yet another one. If this is in fact nothing, yet one more blemish on there. It is significantly harder to build a reputation than it is to lose a reputation.
But this always goes back to the thing we like to talk about, the classic Sony hubris.
Yeah.
They don't have to care.
Well, not right now. But they will start hitting them eventually. Like, for example,
they won't care until they find themselves in a situation like they did when they started losing out to Microsoft a little.
Yeah. No, that I do agree on. They won't care until then.
Such a time as that happens, until we get back to like the 360 PS3 era sales, they don't care.
All of this stuff will make them care eventually, though, is the point that I'm trying to make. For example, they're bleeding the indie scene right now. People are fleeing Sony because they're so fucking difficult to deal with on the indie side of things, and they're going to places like Microsoft. That is going to cut into them. It's slow death by 1,000 cuts. And they're just too... It's that hubris that you did mention, though. That hubris is going to make them blind to it. So this is going to be yet another black eye that they're taking. It might be a small one, but it is still another one. If this is, in fact, absolutely nothing.
Which we are inclined to believe that it is.
But I dismiss the idea that this will do nothing to Sony at all. It might not be a big thing, and we might not see the result of it soon. But it does damage that reputation that is significantly harder to build than it is to lose.
I can't wait to read your blog post in 10 years. The moment Sony failed, and you cite this exact thing as the single downhill tipping point.
If I were to cite... Let me actually think about that. If I were to actually cite the moment Sony fails, it would be the...
I know you're going to say the hack, but...
No, not the hack.
It's 10 years on, and nothing fucking happened.
No. The moment Sony started to fall apart when it came to this is when their hubris came back during the Japanese versus Sony Europe Civil War that happened. The internal Civil War that no one's actually talking about, but everyone can kind of see the writing on the wall. When Jim Ryan took over and Shuhei Yoshida got pushed in the corner, that is when the culture changed at Sony, and that is when they started making all these unforced errors over and over and over.
That one I'll give you, because we had long conversations about how ridiculous it was that they abandoned themselves as a Japanese company and became an American company when they moved their headquarters to California.
That is when this weird...
And then closed Japan studios.
Yeah, that is when this weird new Sony kicked in. And that is when the decline of Sony really started.
But we've talked about Jim Ryan and all that enough. Let's get back on topic.
Right.
So we had this whole interview that happened with Hassan, and he told Enemy of this whole big breakdown of what was going on.
Oh, that's clever. I didn't even read it that way. I just read it as NME, not enemy.
All right, what are you gonna do? And yeah, they're saying it's not what anybody thinks it is, which makes me think that it's a more generic survival shooter, because he mentioned it's not really a horror game. So stop thinking Silent Hill and start thinking Dead Space 3.
No, oh, god damn it, no. By the way, still think Twitchy, good to have you in chat. I did see you in there. It just was not necessarily a good time to say hey to you. David?
Yes.
Why don't you take this next one on the long list of fucking up that we have?
Classic. In true GamePoints fashion, we're gonna bitch for a while, and then things will be happier. Normally we don't get to the happier part, but at least it's a good week. 3, in a story from IGN, 3 senior Blizzard developers or devs reportedly no longer with company amid Activision Blizzard allegations. Diablo 4 director Louis Barriga, lead level designer Jesse McCree, and World of Warcraft designer Jonathan LeCraft have reportedly been let go amid the ongoing allegations of harassment and abusive culture within Blizzard. Their names are no longer in the company directory, and a source within Blizzard confirmed to IGN that they've also been removed from the company's Slack channel. Both McCree and LeCraft were tied to the recent Cosby Suite report, which revealed that Blizzard developers would gather within a hotel suite to drink and make sexual remarks about women. It's been tied to the reported frat culture that led to California suing Activision Blizzard last month. Berga had been with Blizzard since 2006 and worked on Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls and World of Warcraft Legion. I don't know if you caught this, but there was an Overwatch tournament that happened last week, and the actual commentators, while they were commentating, actually stopped referring to the character McCree by his name because that character's name was based on Jesse McCree.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
And for the entirety of the tournament, they were just calling him the Cowboy. That happened.
That's all right.
And there's rumors they might be trying to rename him.
I think that's a little knee-jerky, but oh well. I will say of this, it is interesting. More people getting laid off at Activision Blizzard, especially people who have been there for quite a while. As far as the average consumer might be concerned, if they're not interested in the sexual harassment claims or allegations or firing, one thing that you might want to take note is that it was the lead on Diablo 4. So there is no way that game doesn't get pushed back because they now have to put someone else in charge of that project. Mm-hmm. So if you're sitting back wondering, what's any of this have to do with my game? Well, there you go. David, do you have anything you want to add to this? Just more changes happening in Activision Blizzard. I'm actually kind of surprised to see people getting let go. I thought that this was
They're trying to do anything they can to save face. Okay. Anybody that they can fire, anybody that can get rid of, anybody that's linked to it that's not at the very, very tippy top, the people that are trying to keep their jobs and keep the money, are going to be thrown under the bus, and they're going to say, "Oh, it was that guy," or this is where the buck stopped," or don't be mad at us. We're fixing it. We're doing everything we can, even though they were probably aware of whatever was going on and just did nothing about it until they got caught.
All right, David.
Yes.
And the other news of just disappointing shit nonstop.
Classic.
CD Project Red is the third I'm trying to get out. Finally showed us what details of their 1.3 patch for Cyberpunk will entail. You know, the big 1.3 patch that was supposed to fix all kinds of stuff and come with a whole bunch of new content and all that good stuff. And they did a roughly 40-minute stream today on Twitch, and it was just cringy as fuck.
It was jam full with content, right? It's been almost a year since that game came out.
Yeah, so there was
just a ton of stuff, right? Because I'm pretty sure we had No Man's Sky Next by now.
It's the first time CD Projekt Red said anything about the game in months, and during this giant 40-minute stream, they spent roughly 20 minutes talking about DLC jackets. So that's right. The long-awaited DLC for Cyberpunk 2077 consisted of 2 different jackets that your main character can wear, a different look for Johnny Silverhand, and a new car. And that's it.
Nailed it.
Cool, right? Awesome. I get that you don't want to put out all kinds of new DLC, new quests, or anything like that. Focus on fixing the games, right? What about that next-gen update? How about changing the AI? No. There are no updates on whether or not the next-gen patch will be coming anytime soon, or any of the future promised expansions from CD Projekt Red. No changes to the AI at any level from what I can see. Admittedly, the patch notes seem expansive, but they all seem like minor fixes or fixes to shit that should have been in the game already. For example, one patch note that I saw that made me go, wait, it wasn't like that already, was something along the lines of attacking a citizen in Night City with a non-lethal device will now provoke a police response if they see it.
And well, keep in mind that the entire police system in that game is busted as shit.
Yes. But beyond a few quality of life changes, also on the list of things that I figured should be in there, like bulk crafting,
Mm-hmm.
nothing is really getting hammered out
The biggest
here.
change that they're finally bringing to the game is the fact that the damn mini-map can zoom out when you're in a car now.
Yeah.
Something that desperately needed to be in the game the whole time, because driving in that game and trying to follow the radar and knowing when to turn is so bad.
8 months since this game came out, David.
Mm-hmm.
And it still feels like we've gotten the bare minimum of work. Once again, using No Man's
They're
Sky.
still just fixing. They're still in the panicked bug fixing stage.
Yes, but using No Man's Sky as the barometer, a team significantly smaller than this. And, I mean, you alluded to it. They've done more with No Man's Sky in this amount of time than all of CD Projekt Red has done with this game. And if you watch the stream, I feel bad for the devs, but they're getting... They seem like they didn't even want to be there. And I get not to... I don't...
They wanted to be on top of the world. And they're not. And their name's kind of been dragged through the mud.
I think this is one of those instances where no matter how much they patch this game, it's just never going to work. Because unlike, say, No Man's Sky, where they took 5 years to get it in the state that it's in, there's no way CG Projekt Red is going to spend 5 years worth of time getting this game to have everything they promised in it. Mm-hmm. It really does feel like, and I think this is one of the reasons why they're not saying shit, it feels like they're just going to get this to what they consider an acceptable playable function and then be
Keep in mind that they already probably had an internal timeline for when they need the first paid DLC, and that a decent chunk of them are probably working on paid DLC right now instead of fixing the game.
That is also a possibility because they might have agreements with like Sony and Microsoft and Steam to be like, hey, we will have this on this thing.
That's what I think is going on.
That's a possibility. So yeah, Cyberpunk 1.3 patch, the long-awaited potential fix to everything, really didn't bring much. And when the stream started, chat seemed somewhat enthused about it. Like it was positive. People were like, all right, cool, let's see what you got. Because this game does have a fan base, and there are a lot of believers still in this game. But as time went on, and as they kept talking about his fucking DLC jackets, and the only things they were adding when they were talking about was cosmetic stuff, the tenor of the chat noticeably changed when people started going, are you fucking kidding? It's been 8 months, and this is what you're telling us?
Yeah.
And I get it. This is what happens when you fucking launch something that's not ready for prime time.
But had to be done.
That's what they say. I refuse to believe that it had to be done.
Even though no one was saying they had to have it out.
Remember, Cyberpunk does not have a publisher. They are self-published. CD Projekt Red is its own publisher.
So the only people that said it had to come out were the marketing guys.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add to this? I wanted to address this specifically because it has been so long since we've heard anything from Cyberpunk, and this was such a...
It was a bummer.
This was such a disappointment.
I was hoping for more. I'm one of those guys that I thought, I was like, okay, there's a cool game in here somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This does have potential, I think, and if they stick with it and they work on it. But as mad as we are and as like shitty as we are on the show, I am still an optimist when it comes to this kind of thing. Like I still am sad that they canceled Anthem Next or whatever the hell that was going to be.
That does kind of bother me because Anthem... See,
I wanted to see what these projects could become because we have now had a few of these like redemption stories. We've got No Man's Sky, we've got Final Fantasy 14, we've got a couple others that are kind of feel good, right? The teams really buckled down, they worked on it, they brought the whole thing back around to something that now is beloved. And I want to see that. I think that's a great just moment when we can talk about that kind of thing. So I always want that to happen when we hear a project like this, fail as I mean, that's the best way I could say it. That's what this game did. It sold well, but it failed. And
the difference between this and Anthem, though, however, is I actually got like 30 minutes of enjoyment from Anthem.
Yeah, well, they had the core gameplay loop down.
Yeah. And I'm not even like trying to be a snarky ass. I mean, like Anthem.
And that's actually something I was going to say
is amazing.
To No Man's Sky as well is, yes, it was missing a shit ton of features. But they did have a core gameplay loop. Fly to planet, get resources, try and get a ship, fly to new planet, get resources, repeat. There wasn't enough to do, but that piece, you could fly, you could be in space, see a planet, fly to it, land on it. That worked.
Yes.
Which is one of the very, very core aspects of that game. This, I don't know if its actual soul is there. Besides the fact that it is a story-driven first-person RPG, it does have a story. It does come to a completion. It's not bad, in my opinion. But as far as what you're doing moment to moment and the way some of the quests break down and the way it kind of just has you amble around for the middle part of the game, I don't know if it's in the state that No Man's Sky was at launch, and considering how much they need to do to make it look like that infamous E3 demo that we got 3 years ago.
I sum it up this way. If Cyberpunk would have launched 100% bug-free and ran perfectly, it would still only be a 6.5 out of 10 game.
Based on what they showed us was going to be in it.
Yes. And that's not stuff.
But if it was 100% bug-free and ran great, then maybe at this point we would be at that No Man's Sky 1 year out level.
Maybe, but what it's missing, I don't think can be patched in, and that's a soul.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway, what a bummer.
I wanted to mention Cyberpunk because we don't talk about it nearly as much as we do like Anthem or the now forgotten Avengers or even No Man's Sky, which we refer to all the time. This game's going to be forgotten before any of those games are, just by their pure nature of the fact that it's just what it is.
It's going to be rough for whatever the next project is, because coming off of Witcher, man, people loved CD Projekt.
Rumor is they're going to go back to The Witcher. They kind of have to, right?
Yeah. What are they going to do? Another new IP?
Yeah.
Or a sequel to this? That's not going to happen.
But I wanted to mention this because it's been so long since we talked about Cyberpunk. I'll even phrase that. It's been so long since they've talked about Cyberpunk. Yeah, that's what I wanted to mention.
Oh, boy.
And this is what we get. It is what it is. All right, David, why don't you go ahead and lead us off on the next story here. Now we're going to get into some cool shit.
Yeah. This is more exciting. So this article is from multiple sources: Game Radar, Kotaku. A Grand Theft Auto Remastered Trilogy reportedly coming to next-gen PS5, Xbox Series X, Switch, and more in 2021. That's this year. A GTA Remastered Trilogy is reportedly coming to the PlayStations, the Xboxes, Switch, PC, Stadia, and mobile devices later this year.
I actively forgot Stadia existed to the point where I put this into the notes and blacked out that I wrote the word Stadia until you actually said it out loud.
No problem. I'm here to help. Rumors of a GTA Remastered Trilogy have been swirling for months, but a new report from Kotaku adds a lot more credibility to the situation.
In fact, I remember hearing, to go back to that, I remember hearing rumors about this as early as the third week of July is when I heard this is actually happening rumor, as opposed to some rando on the internet saying it's going to happen.
I think we discussed it outside of show, and we're not going to add that to the notes because it's so unsubstantiated at this point. Anyway, back to the article. A new report from Kotaku adds a lot more credibility. The report claims that Crackdown 2 developer Rockstar Dundee is heading up development on remasters of 3 classic PlayStation 2 games, including GTA 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. The report says the collection will run on Unreal Engine, no mention of which, and will blend new and old graphics, which reminded one Kotaku source of a heavily modded classic GTA game. Apparently, despite some updates to the UI, Rockstar is aiming for remasters that are as faithful to the original games as possible.
Let me pause you real quick. I guarantee to you when they say as faithful to the original games as possible, meaning do not expect the soundtracks.
Yep, 100%. The licensing on a lot of that stuff is gone. Trying to get it again is going to be a pain and very, very expensive, and I don't know if they're going to assume that they're going to get that money back.
Which is a shame, because Vice City specifically,
yes,
there are
without
so
the soundtracks, these games will not be as good.
Yeah, there's something about Grand Theft Auto the soundtrack that nails it so perfectly.
Yeah, and I actually think that's true of all 3 games. I know Vice City, has that 80s flair, and there's some great songs in there, but San Andreas is also good. GTA 3, they're just good. Of course, the radio, like DJs, commercials, all that stuff will stay in.
Laszlo will still be in there. The Ken, whatever his name is, the lawyer that's in there, he'll still be in there.
Yeah. I'm wondering if they're going to use new licensing for new music, or if it's going to be like royalty free shit, or if they're just going to put in the songs they have and the soundtracks are going to be very limited. We have no idea. This is all speculation. Don't get mad at us if it comes out and it has the full soundtrack. That just means that Rockstar spent a shit ton of money if we get the actual soundtracks. But
which I doubt
doubt
for
it.
a couple of remasters.
Yeah. The Remaster Trilogy was reportedly originally planned as bonus goodies to be bundled into the next-gen versions of GTA 5 and GTA Online, but complications relating to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic changed plans more than once. The collection was then planned for release earlier this year and is now slated for a late October or early November release.
That right there seals the soundtrack conversation for me, because it sounds like they're going to give these away for free.
Right?
They wouldn't be doing that if they had to pay for soundtrack licensing.
Yep. And that also makes me think that they're going to be remasters, but they're not remakes, right? We know that.
No,
they're
going to be compatible with 4K TVs and stuff.
They're going to be upscaled. They're going to have smooth textures. They're probably going to use that like AI to 4K thing to make it look better than it was.
You might get 60 frames, and Vice City in 60 frames would be fucking amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Though things are subject to change, and as with any unconfirmed report, it's best to take this information as such. Today's report suggests that the console versions of the GTA Remaster Trilogy are being prioritized over the mobile and PC ports, which could be pushed to next year, which is just so damn on brand for Rockstar. They love releasing Grand Theft Auto games on consoles and then waiting a year and putting them on PC so they can get people double dip, and that is not limited to new releases. That also includes remasters of old shit. Rockstar will reportedly be looking at the success of these remasters as it eyes potential new ports of other games like Red Dead Redemption, which, yes, please. But for now, the focus is on shipping the GTA Trilogy as well as GTA 5's next-gen update.
Cool. This is good. I don't know if I would ever go back through and play the old GTAs because they're such huge games. I don't have the wherewithal for it, but this is...
You don't want to go all the way through Vice City and 100% it so you can get the t-shirt that says I 100% Vice City and all I got was a lousy t-shirt?
I mean, I kind of do, but there's a lot of things in Vice City that I just did not like doing, like trying to find off stunt jumps and stuff, for example. I was like, I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
This is good, though. I'm liking it. What's your take on it there, David?
I think this is awesome. And what's funny is that the only way I'd actually see myself playing these is, and don't be too mad, but the mobile ports, if they're really good and they look good, probably the only time I'd go back and play these older games.
All right.
Like if I'm sitting,
just saying, you got to switch, man.
I know, but I kind of feel like the version on my phone will run better than the one on my Switch.
It might. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see.
No, this is kind of finally, like you alluded to earlier, I think we talked about this off the show once. There have been rumors about this for months, but now we're starting to get some hard confirmation from some bigger sites. Yeah. So there we go.
In other news, for a lot of people, there's actually new Grand Theft Auto games because there's a whole generation of gamers that have never played these old games, and as far as they're concerned, this is new.
Right. No, it's
GTA 5's been out for like a decade.
Know your roots. Go back, take a look at it. God damn, it really has been.
Yeah. 3 console generations.
David, let's talk about something different. This came out as a surprise, and we were talking about it early in the show. Axiom Verge 2 stealth released. Just came out of nowhere. It was delayed from being...
Friday last week?
No, it was like Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay.
It was supposed to come out early this year, got delayed because, well, fucking what hasn't gotten delayed because of COVID.
And it's one guy, right?
Yeah, it's literally one guy. It's one guy who does all the programming, art design, music, writing, story, level design. All of it is one guy. He does have help with like play testing and PR. His wife's heavily involved with the company as well, but more as like the
as far as
project
building
manager
the video
side
game?
faced of it, but when it comes to the core mechanics of building the game, it's all from a guy named Tom Happ.
Yep.
This game is amazing. It came out on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and the Epic Game Store. If you have played the first game, you have no excuse not to play this game unless you hated the first game, in which case I don't even know why you played it in the first place because you know what you're getting. This game is a good sequel. However, I will give this one strike against it. It's not as good as the first.
No, what are you gonna do? Sequels rarely are.
It is good. In fact, I would even say it's great. If you love Metroidvanias, this is going to be right up your alley. But my biggest problem with it is the boss fights are really weak. Real weak. And you can skip them all. Which, negative, positive, that's kind of a neutral thing in my book.
Seems weird.
Yeah, you can just go into their room and run right past them. But let's say you choose to stay and fight them. There are a lot of bosses where I found if I just kind of stay on top of them and hit it over and over and over and over real quick, it just goes down real fast. And it's not like it's not like I'm a amazingly skilled gamer or anything like that. And I was playing on the default difficulty. So if you like your Metroidvanias to have a little bit more bite to it on the difficulty curve, make sure you crank up that scale. One thing that's cool about the difficulty, though, is that it's all scalable. So there's like a scale of like 1 to 10 of how much damage you take, 1 to 10 of how much damage you dish out, and things like that. It's not a extremely detailed scalability, but it is way more than the easy, normal, or hard that you typically get in a game.
Yeah,
like
it sounds like it has some in common with like the Celeste scaling.
Yeah, in fact, I would say that the scalability is inspired by Celeste. If you turn it all the way down, it actually might put you in invincibility mode. I don't know. I didn't bother turning it all the way down. Something to look at, though.
There you go.
I'm going to take the next two as well, because they're kind of quick there, David, if that's all right with you.
Go for it.
Next up on the docket, Call of Duty Vanguard was leaked, and Activision will be having a reveal on their Warzone part of the game this August 19th. The story is from Video Games Chronicle. Now, last week, what started happening is... Hey there, Dag. How you doing? What started happening is that last week, Call of Duty started getting leaked by a bunch of various sites, Charlie Intel and all the usual suspects. And Activision, Blizzard, whoever's running their PR for the game, leaned into it and just kind of said, yeah, okay, this shit exists. Because why would you? You know? Why would you deny it when you have like the actual marketing materials? Turns out, though, for people wanting a little bit more juicy details on what the next COD is going to be about, there will be a big old reveal on August 19th. At least according to an advert published on the PlayStation Store earlier today, which confirms that the game will be shown the first time via Warzone at 10:30 Pacific Standard Time, going that Fortnite route where they have the big in-game events to reveal things.
Yep.
Sledgehammer Games started teasing the last week because, well, like I said, everyone started leaking it. And it does look like it's returning to a World War II setting, which I am down for. I've always liked the World War II Call of Duties more than the future ones. For the longest time, I wanted them to go into the future setting, and then they did, and I realized I just like the World War II better.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's one of those things where they gave me exactly what I was asking for, and it turned out that's not what I wanted.
Yeah, because their future wasn't as good as the one that Respawn has.
Right. The modern. I don't count the Modern Warfare trilogy as part of this conversation. I'm talking about specifically Advanced Warfare and Infinite Warfare.
Those are a whole other level. That's the reason.
Yeah, it really is. I find it interesting they are going the Fortnite marketing route with it, where you have to be in-game, which means a lot of people just are not going to be able to see the event because either they're at work.
And you're going to watch it on YouTube later.
Watch it on YouTube later, but that means you're either going to be at work or doing something else, or you can't even get into the goddamn servers.
It's worked for Epic, so why not?
Exactly. That seems to be what everyone is doing right now, is aping Fortnite, because, well, that's the video game industry in general, right?
Just wait for them to have a whole music concert inside their video game.
I don't know if the setting would necessarily lend itself to that, but hey, doesn't mean they won't do it.
Well, I mean, you just got to get the right artist, right?
Do you care about this at all? Because it feels like Call of Duty doesn't have the same panache and luster it once used to because of Warzone. This feels like it's become a victim of its own success, where more people care about the Battle Royale aspect than any campaign or even deathmatch anymore. In my opinion, that's just what it feels like.
We discussed this before, but the Modern Warfare games are literally the only Call of Duties I play.
Right.
And of the 3 teams that make Call of Duty games, I only play the Infinity Ward ones.
Okay. I just wanted to see if you had any interest at all on this. I'm interested in the campaign for certain, but yeah, it just feels like Call of Duty is not the powerhouse it was, or rather has morphed into something new because Warzone has been so successful for them.
I'm more excited for over this. I'm more excited for Battlefield.
Same here. I think I am too. Dag Chat says they only play World War I and World War II ones. I agree. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that Battlefield 1942 or 2042 rather. That does look good.
It's just been a minute since I've gotten my teeth into a Battlefield game, and I feel like it's the time because I tend to jump back and forth between the franchises every I don't know, few years or so. So we'll see.
One thing I want to mention real quick, David, is that it was believed that Call of Duty Vanguard would be announced at a long-rumored Sony State of Play that was supposed to be coming, or rumored rather, to be coming out toward the end of August. Now, Sony lately has been doing the Nintendo thing where they show up and they go, hey, this is happening tomorrow, show up at this time and take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
A 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time reveal in Warzone would be ample enough time to do the event, wrap up, and then lead to a mid-afternoon State of Play on Thursday. We'll probably know by tomorrow if that's going to be happening. I would not be surprised because everything seems to be pointing that this is going to be happening. And then you also have Gamescom happening the week after. And that's it. I guess check social media tomorrow. Keep a little bit of an extra on there if you want to see if there's going to be a State of Play. But if it doesn't happen tomorrow, it won't be happening for another couple of weeks because of Gamescom is the point that I'm trying to make. We have one more announcement. Really looking forward to this. Very excited for it because I love the first one. Frostpunk 2 has been officially announced. 11-Bit Studios teased this a few weeks back, but we didn't really know what it was. However, the more eagle-eyed and eagle-eared of us were able to pick out certain Frostpunky details. Today, we got the official announcement. Frostpunk 2 is a thing. This time it's set 30 years in the future. Everything is still iced over. We're all over that black gold, that Texas tea this time around, known as oil instead of coal. And the co-director, Jakub Stolatsky, forgive me, it's a Polish studio, and I always have a problem pronouncing Polish names, that's my failing, said the following. Frostpunk 2 builds on its conflicts of its predecessor, survival versus human values, life versus the Arctic frost, but most importantly adds a new layer that is present in many aspects of the game, be it politics, be it society, be it technological progress, the conflict between humans and their nature. I love Frostpunk, but it is grim as hell.
It's so dark.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculously dark.
And I am looking very forward to seeing what horrible choices they have me making this one. For example, just to give you an idea, for those who have not played Frostpunk, it is a city management sim where essentially a massive global ice age has hit. You are alone in a small little crevice that's protecting you from the storm, and you have to make horrible, horrible decisions for survival. For example,
you're basically protecting the last of humanity.
Do you send children off into the coal mines knowing they're going to lose arms and fingers from frostbite? Or do you give them like a little bit of education knowing that is that many more mouths to feed without any extra production? My favorite choice being, do you bury the dead in a nice ceremony, or do you eat them because you don't have food?
Yeah,
it is shit like that.
It's real dark.
It does get real bad. Dag says he would educate them, then eat them. I kind of appreciate that.
No, that's Percy. You got to fatten up them brains. It's more of a delicacy that way.
You got to tell them what's coming because the fear makes them a little bit more delicious. I do appreciate
No, fear ruins the meat.
Eat the smart, way more healthier. Oh, that's great. That's great. David, we have one more story coming up. I thought this was interesting. Why don't you go ahead and read us off?
This is so remarkably in my wheelhouse.
That's exactly why I brought it up.
In a story from IGN, the most ridiculous news story I thought I would ever say out loud that I'm so excited for with very little information. Spec Ops The Line creative director and Nine Inch Nails guitarist launched a new game studio titled Eyes Out. Yes, you heard all that right. The creative director of Spec Ops The Line, Corey Davis, and the Nine Inch Nails guitarist Robin Fink are co-founding a new game studio together called Eyes Out. The LA-based art house studio aims to focus on making dark, atmospheric games with an emphasis on environmental storytelling. Eyes Out already has its first project, a single-player immersive cosmic horror game with an emphasis on environmental storytelling. More news about the title is planned for the coming months.
David?
Yes.
Now, I am not meaning this as a pejorative because I love the horror games that are like this. But I hear that, and all I hear is a lot of fancy words of saying walking simulator.
That's fair. Environmental storyteller, and cosmic horror means it's gonna be Lovecraftian
Yeah. Now,
usually.
for me, that's great because I love games. I love like the Bloober Team games, and I love Soma and shit like that. But this does just sound like they're making a walking sim. Let's be 100% realistic here.
That's fair, but the creative director of Spec Ops: The Line, which is one of the best third-person shooters, I think, just period.
When it comes to its like plot
If
was,
you're-
but that
if you're-
gameplay was kind of eh.
I mean that specifically for story.
Yeah,
I was getting there. Thanks. So there was a really strong story in that game that made that game worth it, and I'm excited to see what else they can put together. And I don't know, it's Nine Inch Nails. Come on. Previously, Davis had worked on several other projects, including the Condemned and Fear franchises.
Both
and
excellent,
Here They
by
Lie.
the way.
While Fink has provided music for games like Observation and Noct, because they love doing soundtracks over there.
Yeah.
And
9 Inch Nails, they've individually done a lot of soundtrack work.
yes,
Like,
definitely.
specifically video game soundtrack work as well. Not just soundtracks in general. In fact, they've won like Oscars, I think, for soundtracks. But I think they have a hand in like a bunch of id games. Fink, like I said, was in Noct. Noct, don't bother with, but Observation was great.
Yep. In a quote from Corey Davis, sorry. When I was finishing up work on Here They Lie, Robin wandered into our studio, and I felt a very strong connection to his open, creative view of existence and the power of music. We instantly started working on some prototypes I had in development at the time, and together we launched straight towards something unexpected. Robin's vibrant and boundless approach to the creative process drives our work far beyond my previous experience. It's such an exhilarating trip to venture into the darkness together. Fink added that the studio's first project explores the theme of human consciousness as it relates to the seen and unseen properties of vibration and sound. I don't know what any of that means, but I'm probably here for it. We're pushing the boundaries of the horror genre to create a thoughtful, lasting, terrifying gameplay experience.
Sounds amazing. David, do you want to address the atrocity that just happened in chat, or should I?
I'm going to pretend it didn't happen because I am offended.
All right. Dag, I love you, man, but I gotta kind of put you a little bit in place here. 9 Inch Nails did not cover Hurt. Johnny Cash covered Hurt. 9 Inch Nails.
That's why it's on his cover album.
They created Hurt.
That being said, Trent Reznor himself
Yes.
said that he liked Johnny Cash's version of the song so much that he gave him that song.
Yes.
And he considers it to be more his than Trent's.
But that is one of those things that I see in my I just kind of get like that eye twitch that I'm just like, yeah, 100%. Hurt is a 9 Inch Nails song that Johnny Cash covered. Yep. And I don't necessarily
he had
blame
a whole
him
cover album that came out in like 94 that was put together by his manager. He covered a whole bunch of stuff, and Hurt was definitely the standout. But yeah, that's a 9 Inch Nails song.
And I don't necessarily blame people for that, because if you listen to the lyrics of Hurt, that is Johnny Cash.
One of them is way more popular, and he did change a lyric.
Yes, he did.
But that's okay, because Johnny Cash.
Yeah. David, that does it for the news. We do have a delay, because this is the year of delays. Life is Strange True Colors for Nintendo Switch was supposed to be coming out September 10th. Now slated for just an ambiguous this year. We also have two upcoming events. One, the aforementioned Call of Duty Vanguard reveal, which will be Thursday, August 19th. We talked about it earlier in the show. And we also have a Pokemon Presents on August 18th, which will be tomorrow from the day this is airing. They're going to be giving out news about Pokemon Legends Arceus, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, and Pokemon Shining Pearl. If you want to watch that live, you need to be up at a bright and early 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it will last roughly 28 minutes. I don't know why they didn't say roughly 30 minutes, because 28 minutes seems oddly specific.
Right? Roughly 28 minutes. Yeah, you could. Maybe it's going to be 25.
And possibly a Nintendo State of Play. A Sony State of Play, but honestly, at this point, saying that there's a State of Play this week is like saying there's a Nintendo Direct this week.
Everyone keep saying
says
it, so you're
each
right.
week, and eventually someone will be right. But we won't know for sure until later. And David, God knows I can't be half-assed to keep myself entertained for at least 24 hours to find out what's happening. So what can I play? What can I keep myself occupied with in the meantime?
Really quickly, I have to do a little bit of bookkeeping here. I we missed something pretty serious that I didn't talk about last week, but fucking Evo just happened, at least in North America, and it was online, and it's not the regular Evo. But if you like fighting games and you're bored, you could definitely look up the Evo tournaments. They're all on YouTube, or you can go find them over on the Evo website. And,
I did not know that happened last week, by the way. I normally cover them because you're a fighting game guy, so I'm shocked I did not see
and I'm
them.
normally the one who's breaking down all the events, and it's just, I don't know, it's been a weird week, and we had a lot of shit to talk about, and we just kind of missed it. But they're all up. You can go watch all the VODs. If you didn't watch it live, there's some really, really good matches, especially if you're fans of Guilty Gear, Tekken, whatever else you like to play. It's on there. Take a look. Anyway, back to new releases, and oh boy, is this a good week for
Yeah, we actually got some
and
good shit
me,
out this week,
my
and we're
friend.
not even being like sarcastic about it. There's some
A
good
game
stuff this
that
week.
I was outrageously looking forward to releasing this month got overshadowed because I forgot about all these other games that I was excited about that came out at the same time. All right, first up, we've got Road 96 coming out on Switch and PC. This is a dystopian adventure narration game that is a procedurally generated road trip. No one road is the same. This looks like a better built story-driven version of The Long Drive, if you've ever seen that video
Yeah, I'm
game.
actually looking forward to playing. I need to actually add to my wish list while I'm thinking about it.
It looks pretty cool. Greek Memories of Azure hits the PlayStations, the Xboxes, Switch, and PC. This is a hand-drawn adventure RPG, 2D side-scroller. It looks fantastic. Single-player adventure game with hand-drawn animations. Even if you don't like it, just take a look because I think it looks really good. I don't know, it's pretty. Video games are pretty. You will take the role of three siblings, Greek, Adara, and Raidel, and guide them to the lands of Azure, alternate control between them, and use their unique abilities to escape from the Urlag invasion. Next up, the game that has destroyed the entirety of my day. I was late to our normal meeting to talk about the show because I was too busy playing Humankind on PC. Amplitude Studios' magnum opus, a historical strategy game where you will rewrite the entire narrative of humankind, a convergence of culture, history, and values that allows you to create a civilization that is unique as you are. So, if you are unaware, Amplitude Studios have put out a series of games that I love in the Endless franchise, Endless Space, Endless Legend. There's even Dungeon of the Endless. And I love them. I love all of their video games. I've been waiting for this game for like a year.
Has to wait been worth it?
It is very much like a Civilization 4X game. And yes, I've played several hours of it today. I am delighted. And what's funny is, much like Endless Space, I suck at this game out of the box. I had to play it and then start again when I realized that I was doing everything wrong.
Is my biggest concern about this, David? Now, I love the Endless games. I love a lot of Amplitude, but my biggest concern about this is I'm just going to get a weaker version of Civilization. Is this different enough, or do I need to be like tampering?
So
my
you know how when you
expectations a
play
little bit?
Civilization and you need to go fight somebody, you grab your troop and you right click on their troops, and then they just kind of bash each other, and then that's over?
Yeah.
Yeah, this doesn't do that. This turns into a tactical game, and you actually have to command your troops and position them on the battlefield and fight strategically.
So it's a little bit like Endless Legend in that regard.
Yes, which
Okay.
I always thought made that game fantastic. It does have some of the similar vibe. It still uses like the FIMS system where you can kind of see which tiles generate which kind of resource. It definitely has the Amplitude vibe going for it, but it feels very well put together. I know, especially like Endless Space 2 felt a little cumbersome to get into and get through the tutorials and figure out what the hell you're supposed to do. I feel like they've done a lot of work to get people into their style of 4X game.
Okay.
Because the tutorials seem pretty detailed.
For those interested, by the way, I will be streaming this tomorrow, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here at twitch.tv/GamePoints. I hope to see you all there. And yes,
Also,
Dag, I am looking forward to all the Hearts of Iron stuff too.
Also, for my weekly Game Pass update, yes, this is 100% on Game Pass. And much like everything else I've ever played on Game Pass, the multiplayer barely works unless you're playing it on Steam. But that's not a Amplitude problem. That's the Xbox app actually sucks problem. Moving on, Mayhem Brawler, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC. This is a 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up. An urban fantasy themed beat 'em up that brings back the 90s arcade vibe to present day. With comic book style and kick-ass soundtracks, it offers a unique experience that you can tackle solo or co-op with friends while defining the next step in the story with your choices. The art style screams Streets of Rage 4, and if you like beat 'em ups, there's never enough of them. So take a look at Mayhem Brawler. Hitting PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, Rogue Explorer is a pixel art hack and slash roguelike game. Do you dare discover what awaits you? The deep in the abyss. Explore randomly generated dungeons in a roguelike action experience. Hack and slash enemies. Acquire loot and obtain enhancements to your existing equipment. This is, 2D, isometric. I feel like this is the classic roguelike, right? This is what Binding of Isaac basically is. This is Don't Starve. This is, I don't know. I feel like this is where we started, and here's a new one. Tetris Effect Connected hits PlayStation 4 and PC, and adds an all-new robust multiplayer expansion to Tetris Effect, which if you never played is flipping incredible.
Not just incredible, but if you have a VR headset, this game is on another level.
Yeah, it's got innovative single-player modes that Tetris Effect is known for, plus all-new co-op and competitive online and local multiplayer. Tetris Effect, one of the best dang games of the last few years. Tetris is forever, right?
Yeah.
But this is the best one we've had so far. The next one I feel like would be in your wheelhouse if it wasn't for so much other stuff coming out. But
it's funny you say
Architect,
that because I have been sent a code for this, but I can't get to it this week because of the other shit that's come out this
there's
week.
So much going on.
I will probably play it next week, though. Thank you very much to Tiny Build for the free code.
Hell Architect hits PC and Mac. This is a colony sim city builder in hell. A game about building and managing your own hell. You take on the role of a hell manager and are tasked with developing the underworld in a way that, just look at it. It looks completely ridiculous. You're like managing souls of the damned and having them build things and mine for resources.
It's kind of prison architect-y, but with an underworld setting.
Yes. Next up, something that I was outrageously excited for until I was too busy this week, but Rims Racing, which I've mentioned before on the show.
You have.
The PlayStations, the Xboxes, Switch, and PC. This is a sim motorcycle racing game that combines realistic racing challenges with engineering and mechanics. So the thing that makes this different than like the MotoGP games is that not only are you riding motorcycles, but you can completely customize the bikes. You can switch out parts. It's all real-world stuff. You can change suspension pieces, brakes, tires, whatever you would want to do, and then you can race with it and analyze the data, and it's so heavy on the sim side of things, and we haven't really had a true sim motorcycle racing game in a really long time.
Like Tourist Trophy, I think might have been the last one.
Yeah, because obviously there's the MotoGP games, but they're kind of like yearly franchise sponsored games. So this is a little different. Uoni hits the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and PC. This is a first-person survival horror game that is whisking you away to a sunset-stained world to play a deadly game of hide and seek. As a grade schooler AI, navigate authentic Japanese environments and utilize every hiding space you can to survive the horrors ahead. And if they find you, run. This looks nice and spooky. First-person survival horror. Take a look. Recompile is next gen. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. This is a 3D platformer exploration adventure game. It's a Metroidvania that has you taking control of a semi-sapient program struggling against deletion. So you're playing as a little AI guy in a sprawling 3D mainframe trying to, not get deleted.
Sounds good.
Next up, 12 Minutes, which I know we've both been looking forward to.
Yeah, this I will be streaming on Thursday if it's out by then.
The Xboxes and PC. This is an indie adventure starring James McAvoy, Daisy Ridley, William Dafoe, an interactive thriller about a man trapped in a time loop. The game goes for 12 minutes and resets as you try and solve a... Just take a look. 12 minutes. It looks really neat.
Yeah, us trying to explain it, I don't think it's going to do it justice.
Yeah, I don't think explaining it's going to be worth it. I think you just kind of are probably going to need to either play it or give it a look and see if this is the kind of thing that vibes with you. Monster Harvest.
I believe Annapurna is doing it, by the way. Annapurna kind of quickly established themselves as like the A24 of video games. So something else to keep in mind.
There you go. Monster Harvest hits PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC. This is a farming sim / RPG / creature collector. Monster collecting and farming action RPG with a twist. Grow, collect, and mutate your crops, then take them into battle. Filled with places to discover and multiple ways to build your farm. Get ready to craft, explore, and battle across the vibrant world of Plannable Point. Yeah, I had to include the name in there. This looks like Stardew Valley meets Pokemon.
Okay.
Madden NFL 22 hits everything that those normally come out on, and it is the new Madden game. I feel like I don't need to describe it to you because if you've never heard of Madden, it's American football. You either want to play that or you don't.
No. It's football. Let's just establish that right now. Everything else is soccer.
You can say that, but in most of the world, you're wrong.
Most of the world does not matter.
I mean, you could say that, but in most of the world, you're wrong.
Most of the world doesn't matter.
Next on the list, Arietta of Spirits. Hey, it's PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. This is a story-rich 2D action-adventure game following Arietta on her journey to unveil the mysteries of the spirit realm. Immerse yourself in a story filled with emotion and surprising turns. 2D isometric action RPG. I actually think this looks pretty damn fun. But there's too many video games this week. Last but not least, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut hits PS4 and PS5 this week as well. Includes the base game as well as the Iki Island expansion and a host of PS5 exclusive features such as 60 FPS gameplay and Japanese lip sync. Look at that. Please note that if you didn't already notice, 2 days ago, ahead of the release of the Director's Cut, Sony completely delisted the original Ghost of Tsushima from the PlayStation Store.
Interesting.
You are incapable of buying the base game any longer.
I did not see that.
We have no idea if they're going to add it. So if you want to play regular Ghost of Tsushima and not pay full price again for it, you're going to have to go find a physical copy.
The only problem with this, David, is that I would love to play more Ghost of Tsushima, but that game wrapped up so tightly and so perfectly for me that I feel like going back to it for more content would just lessen the experience for me.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing where I'm assuming that you would actually want to get to Iki Island on a original playthrough, like midway to 2/3 of the way through the game.
Yeah, and
to properly experience it.
And I'm not going to go back to
the idea that it's called a director's cut because it's not. A director's cut is the version of the video game that came out because that's how video games work. It's not Zack Snyder. It's a totally different thing. Just stop.
This is what Sony is doing for their version of the Criterion, the Criterion collection. They're going to start rolling out these director's cuts rather than calling it Game of the Year. You know, I'd rather them call it director's cut than Game of the Year edition for damn sure. David.
Yes.
Does it for new releases, which means that also does it for the show as
Vince,
well.
We are desperately sorry. You are super late.
Rolling in right as we're leaving, but while this has been GamePoints episode 275, we do, of course, stream every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here at twitch.tv/GamePoints. If you want to join us live for whatever video game news we find interesting that week. If you can't join us live, however, you can also watch old shows over at youtube.com/GamePointsPC. You can join our Discord server, link provided down there somewhere, regardless of where you're watching at, either in the description or in the information down at the bottom. You can follow the show over at GamePointsPC on Twitter, myself, Stephen Brown, at CapitalistPig21, and Dale, they're at _Satori. And of course, if for some reason you like what you saw here, you know what streamers want. Follows and notifications, turn on bits, subs, especially if you're sitting on that freebie from Amazon. I'd appreciate it here, but if you don't use it here, give it a good home somewhere. Thank you all for showing up. This has been Game Points, and until next week, we're out of here.